primary school back in the 70s. One of my teachers, I remember, used to say, oh, if you're going to do something, then do it right. That was a good philosophy, alhamdulillah, very much reflected in the words of the Prophet ﷺ himself. Inna Allah kataba al-ihsan ala kulli shay, that Allah prescribes excellence in all that you do. And we'll come to that hadith number 17 or 18 much later. Allah prescribes excellence in all that you do. The way of a Muslim must be the way of excellence, the way of doing something in the best possible way, having ihsan, being muhsin. And I remember mentioning at one of the earlier lessons, there is an adab al-majlis. The essence of a Muslim is related to adab. Adab, behavior, courtesy, mannerisms, the way we do things, inwardly and outwardly. And this is reflected in the saying of the Prophet ﷺ, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I have only been sent. Innama. Okay? Innama means, it's a word in Arabic which is, they say it's the thing that it's about. Innama means, I have the only thing. إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I've only been sent to perfect noble manners or noble character. First and foremost, character, akhlaq, same as adab. Behavior, morality, courtesy, propriety. First and foremost, adab with Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then adab with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then adab with the other Muslims, adab with non-Muslims, and adab with the animals, and adab with the earth. Everything has an adab, has a beautiful way of being done. And adab was from that ancient Arabic word, ma'daba, when the ancient Arabs used to invite people for dinner. And Arabs, especially in the ancient times, they were renowned for being great hosts. And they took pride in a number of things. Language, poetry, and also amongst those things of when they would play host to guests. And the Arab, he or she, or they as a family, when they would invite a guest, maybe days before, maybe even weeks before, they'll be thinking, what is it that I'm going to serve them? When am I going to serve them? How am I going to serve them? If I've got a number of guests, I'm quite a rich person and I'm going to have a number of guests, where am I going to seat them? I don't want to seat someone from one tribe who is currently at war or has hostilities with someone from another tribe. That doesn't make for good dinner discussion. And it will be a form of dishonor. And neither do I want to sit this person with that person because it may not be the right thing. I want to honor my guests. And so there was a lot of thought that went into who sat where, what food would be served, how and when, and if they were going to be eating with something other than the hand, where would all these dishes, plates or spoons or a knife or a carving knife, where would they go? All of these arrangements that the Arab prided himself in was part of the ma'daba experience. The experience of being invited to a banquet. Ma'daba, to be invited to a banquet, a food banquet. And because the banquet was arranged in a particular way, as I've described, from there came the word adab. Adab. That when you want to do something, when you're going to do something, do it right, in the right way, at the right time, with the right setting. And that came to refer more so to our behavior, our adab. Have adab, behave yourself, someone could say. Of what is the right time to speak, right time to keep silent, the right way to sit, the right way to relax. Okay? And the mark, subhanAllah, if you look at 18th and 19th century diarists, that is to say, mostly men, but sometimes women, who came from say Britain and went to what was then the Muslim world, whether it was the Maghrib, whether it was in Egypt and Damascus, wherever it was. Quite often they will say that, oh, one of the things about these Muslims is that there is something about the way they invite you to dinner, something about the way that they dress, something about the way that they carry themselves and conduct themselves in society. What they were being enchanted with was adab. That graceful charm, that graceful way of behaving, that reflected not only the seriousness of a Muslim, but the beauty, compassion, and service of the Muslim. And it was not just about honouring our own selves, but it was about honouring the setting. So it was unimaginable for someone who understood what it meant to be a Muslim to come into a mosque, let alone when a sheikh, when an alim is sitting, and just treat it like he's in his own living room, chilling out, relaxing. When someone did that, you knew that this person was majnoon or khabi. Was either mad, an insane person. What can you do with insane person? Mad people are just mad people. Or khabi, an idiot. An idiot. Because he had no knowledge of how to behave in what setting. A bit like we'd call an idiot someone who would come to this masjid and he's just wearing his underpants and maybe a vest. So, you're an idiot or something? You mad? You might want to be doing this in the privacy of your own home somewhere where no one can see. This is not what you do in public. You can't say, well, I do it at home. Then fine, do it at home. But don't bring it out in public. Likewise, certain behaviour is only for a particular place, and other behaviour is for another place. Adab is knowing who you are, where you are, when you are. And we've lost it. We will long gone. Long gone. Rare is it to find a man or a woman of adab. Rare it is. Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahmatullahi alayhi used to say, we learned adab before we learned ilm. We learned adab, these proprieties and courtesies and manners, before we learned the knowledge. Now we learn the knowledge before adab, and actually we don't have any knowledge because we don't know what adab is. Because as Ibn Wahab rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the great students of Imam Malik radiallahu anhu said, he said, what we took from the manners of Imam Malik is more than what we took from his knowledge. And we all know Imam Malik, Jabal al-Ilm, mountain of knowledge. As Imam Shafi said, when the ulama are mentioned, then Malik is a shining star. And yet, Ibn Wahab is saying, what we took from the manners of Imam Malik. And manners doesn't necessarily just mean the way to smile, but it means the whole way of being a Muslim with Allah, with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with other people, with the earth itself. And then that becomes, but today, you see a brother, he doesn't have adab how to stand in prayer. You see a person who runs towards religious knowledge, the Google seeker, as opposed to sitting at the feet of ulama, from where we can learn adab. Okay, I remember being in a gathering like this. It was quite a long gathering, about 5 or 6 hours. We were studying some texts, some mutun. So we did a bit of hadith in the beginning, then we did a bit of tafsir, and then a bit of aqidah, and then at the end we had something light. So it was quite 3 or 4 books. And sitting on the floor was difficult. Anyway, I remember my classmate next to me, my colleague next to me, just put his pen on the floor. And the sheikh is speaking. From there, he gets up and he just puts the pen, the student's pen, in his book. And then he goes back and he carries on speaking. And then maybe a half an hour later, maybe an hour later, I don't know, how, the brother must have done again, he's written something, and then you just, because we were like this, okay, and some of us had our bags, and we were leaning our bags on the book, like the book on the bag, like that, and just put the pen on the floor, or the pencil on the floor. And he came again, he got off of his cushion, and he came and he just took one step, like that. He didn't say anything, just put it like that. Then I realised, oh right, so there's a point to this. Before I thought maybe that was just incidental, then I realised there's a point to it. So I was thinking, I'll ask him. But actually, right at the end, the brother asked. He said, oh, yeah, Sheikh, Fadil, the Sheikh, you put the pen, or pencil, whatever it was, back on the book, but the book was near the ground anyway, so he goes, look, this is not sunnah, or not the sunnah, nothing, but it's about adab. Allah gave the pen, and it's the instrument of ilm, of writing and knowledge, and Allah swears by it in the Quran, and Allah mentions that He mentions how He's taught by it in the Quran. So should have an adab towards it. So don't put it in a low place when you don't have to. So that you as a student, you can honour knowledge and everything connected with knowledge. And one of the first times it dawned on me, honour knowledge, got that because I used to look after my books well, I used to make ihtiram, honour the scholars as much as I could. But everything connected to knowledge. And the pen is one of the greatest things. That's adab. We should aspire to that type of adab. Without which, because it's the essence of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. What's the point in reading about the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? He would not shout in the marketplaces. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would not be the first to leave the hands when shaking the musafaha. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam would continue to look at a person as long as the person was talking to them and not turn the other way. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam would turn his whole body to speak to someone. What are the points of, what is the reason for knowing this if we think they're just little bits that we can do? Little bits that we think we have to do because they're a bit mechanical. Oh, the sunnah says turn your face like this. The sunnah says don't do this. The sunnah says do this. And we do these little things, but actually, when you look at us, we've got atrocious characters. We can walk into the masjid in a football shirt. A 6-year-old doing that, a 9-year-old doing that, an 11-year-old doing that, maybe. A 30-year-old doing that, don't do that. Don't do that. One, because football, it's a culture. And it's not a good culture when you get 22 men running naked. Satrul awra, right? The awra isn't covered. Nothing to do with good sport as in exercise or whatever, but there's a culture. The football stadiums have become the new churches and the new mosques of modernity. A footballer is worth millions. But the alim, you want him to come to your house for £1.50 an hour. Right? So, even if we're going to be attached to football because it's halal, and generally, providing we're dressed properly, it's all halal. But halal doesn't mean something which is really good with adab and everything like that. And then, is that what I want to show other people? And this is what I want to, and I'm not having to go football, that's not the point. The point is adab. If we try, Allah will help. If we aspire, we have this irada, this aspiration, Allah will help. If we don't, it means at that time we don't understand Islam. We don't understand Islam. And we certainly don't understand the Sunnah. Okay. It's really important. Otherwise what you get is you get us who are looking like the followers of the Prophet ﷺ in his Sunnah, but we're actually ugly people. Oh, that brother with a beard there. But look at the way he shouts and curses. Look at the way he quickly smokes off his cigarette and stumps it out on the road and just comes into the mosque and everybody can smell his breath. But ya Sheikh, isn't it just makruh? It's not haram. Go away, don't ask such silly questions. But you're coming in like that though. And it's the mosque. Go home, do whatever. Not do whatever, but you understand. So I put it to you, my brothers. Part of our learning must first be to free our minds. Part of our learning must be to understand that actually examples, egos and examples have been put forward to us and we are emulating them even if we don't realise. And the sunnah has been, subhanallah, honestly, when I was young, I used to find this a great problem. I couldn't understand why someone was telling me to have a hat on my head and having a big go at me as a young person, 9, 10, 12, 13 in the mosque, right? But that same person could make a false claim with the DHS. So like, hold on a minute. What's more important in this? And how comes no one's saying it? And how comes that we can walk into the mosque? And believe you me, if a youth came today, right, and they came with only vest and you know, Bismillah, I wouldn't chase them away. It's a miracle that a youth comes into a mosque anyway, given the temptations that they have. But the point being is, I'm saying that we need to at least put into our hearts an adab. And what happens with the sunnah, it gets a bit butchered. So we're all hot on this and whatever, but things which are even worse to miss out. Because what? What is the maximum ruling on wearing a hat in prayer? Maximum ruling is musta'ab. And to leave it is makruh. According to the jamhur, according to the majority, there is a minority opinion that is la ba'sa bihi, whether you wear it or not, depending upon the urf, the culture and custom of your society. But the jamhur, the majority say it's musta'ab, recommended. If you do it, you get rewarded. If you don't do it, there's no sin, but try not to keep on doing it. Try not to keep on doing the makruh. To carry on doing a makruh becomes really bad. Okay? But compare that to lying on a form for money. Is there any doubt between any of the ulama or any verse in the Quran that lying and deceptively gaining what? No. Now someone may say, but I need to do that because if I don't do that, I get less money than I do if I work or whatever. Then that's a national problem that we have with government, with the whole DHS system and whatever. That's whatever. And there can be no fatwa given. That's an individual case. But I'm talking about generally, when I am okay. Or for example, how, and these things have to be rooted out in the community, acknowledge how we may be finicky on a particular sunnah, and it's all important. You know what I've said about the sunnah before. And yet maybe the domestic violence that goes on in our houses. And Muslim houses are no different than non-Muslim houses in that respect. That is to say, Muslim men are no more violent or less violent than any other man out there. But any other man out there doesn't have the Prophet's guidance and sunnah to guide him. Muslims do. And a lot of that is because we take the sunnah just mechanically. These bits of the sunnah, we can do this. And so someone's going to be really, really strict in, and you know, someone said to me, not in this masjid, in another masjid, oh, but Abu, you should wear a thobe. I said, why? Because that's the sunnah. I said, really? Prophet was wearing a thobe that an Arab wears today? Really? Show me in the Shama'il, we have a detailed description of the Prophet. Show me where he wore what we now call a thobe. Of course, the word thobe was used, but the Arab thobe that we have today, the very nice, elegant Arab thobe that we have today, is that actually the thing that he actually wore? How does he get on a horse? You ever try getting on a horse with a thobe? And yet you know he would regularly get on a horse, the Sahaba would get. How did he do that with a thobe? You might find what is much more normal for the Prophet. Not that he did it all the time, but he did it a lot of the times. He would have a lungi, a waist wrapper, and then a shirt. In fact, two kinds of people remind me of what the description of the Prophet's dress is in the Shama'il. Some Bengalis and some Malaysians. You ever seen a Malaysian with a long shirt and he's got a waist wrapper at the middle, or a Bengali? Right? That's, in one sense, closer to what the Prophet quite often wore, but he didn't always wear. Because he, Sallallahu didn't define a specific dress for Muslim men, he defined obligatory guidelines. And Sharia doesn't define a specific dress for Muslim men, it defines obligatory and recommended guidelines. So that whether you live in Iceland, or whether you live in sub-Saharan Africa, or whether you live right down south, or across the two ends, okay, to America, to China, or whatever, you can, the local culture will define a lot of how that dress goes, but the guidelines of Islam will be adhered to. So you'll find one of the great scholars of Islam, Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, rahmatullahi alayhi, from Merv, the Russian provinces, one of the Tajikistan, Uzbekistan kind of provinces. He is one of the greatest scholars of the third generation of the Tabi'in. What was his hat? His hat was one of those long things up there, because that's what those people wore. He was considered to be Imam Dhahabi says, Shaykh al-Islam of our era. He is the greatest Imam of our era. And he's wearing a hat like that. The Prophet doesn't ever wear it now. Because it wasn't the Arab custom. Okay. And then the Persians had a particular way, and then this had their way. And when Islam came in China, they China-fied it a little bit. Okay. Just like my parents, southern India, listen to this as a good example. When we're brought up, as we're being brought up as a first-generation Muslim, parents from southern India have come here in the 60s, we learn that Islam tells you to respect your elders. Okay, fine. But then, Asian culture, Indian, Pakistani, Bangladesh, okay, or at least much of it, tells you that there's a specific way of honouring your elder. So if you have an older brother, let's say my older brother, his name was, let's just say his name is Bilal. I can't say, oh Bilal, could you come here please? Look, respect, yeah? Bilal, could you come here please? I have to say Bilal Bhai. Bilal Bhaijan. Brother, oh my brother Bilal. Bhai, Bhaijan. Akh. If I don't use the word akh, Bhaijan, Bhai, brother, it's considered disrespectful. I've called someone who's older than me by just their name without a title. Anyone heard of that? Anyone lived by that? How many a time I got in trouble for not doing that when I was growing up. Because you didn't see anyone else do it. It was just in our little house, and we're about the only Muslim family on the house and estate, so everybody, no one else does it. I'm thinking, what's going on, kind of thing. But you realise, whoa, what a value. However, did the Prophet ever teach us that? Never. Never did he ever say, oh, when you call your older brother or older sister, call him Akh Bilal or Ukhti Fatima. Just, it's enough to call them. So is this a bid'ah? Is this going against the sunnah? No. Providing we don't say it is the sunnah, all we can say is that a particular cultural context, this is part of the way that we honour the elder. However, if you take that cultural context and force it on someone who doesn't have it, as long as they are honouring their elders in the way that they think is honourable, and it doesn't go against the Sharia, you cannot force it. So you can't say to the, let's just say, I don't know, the Chinese Muslim, okay, or let's just say the Maghribi Muslim, Moroccan Muslim, and you know, Islam came to Morocco, so the Maghrib slightly earlier than it did Islam. If they don't say, oh, Ukht Fatima, Akh Abdullah, Akhi Abdullah, we don't say that's ghayr ihtiram, disrespectful. We just say that that's not the way that they show a particular form of respect, which is fine, because the form of respect, as long as it doesn't go against, so for example, we should not and must not bow down and out of sajda to the feet of our elders, our grandparents or whomsoever. Yes, if I am overcome with love, momentarily, and I want to kiss their feet, I want to kiss their knee, I want to kiss their forehead, I want to kiss their cheek, I want to kiss their shoulder, I want to kiss their back, and mahabba overcomes me, that's not a problem. But actually as a form of etiquette, then we don't make sajda for anyone except Allah Jalla wa Ala. So that form of respect would not be allowed. But to say Bhaijan and Apa and whatever the cultural words are, that would be. But what I'm trying to say is, hold on a minute, so didn't culture dictate how the Sunnah was going to be slightly acted upon? And what? And we've come here, what, to be Asians? Wallahi, I didn't become a Muslim to be an Asian. Wallahi, I didn't become a Muslim to be an Arab. Wallahi, I didn't become a Muslim to be a West African. But my culture that I'm born into will dictate to me some things of urf, custom and convention. In Sharia, or in Islam, Islamic knowledge, when you have a command in Islam, I'll come to an example in a minute, let me give you the theory. And neither the Quran specifies how it should be done, nor the Sunnah specifies how it should be done, nor, let's say, the agreement of the Sahaba, the Ijma, the consensus of the scholars, more often than not every time, more often than not, urf and ada, customs and conventions will dictate. So, for example, the Quran says to Muslim men, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. The Quran commands Muslim men, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Live with them, with your wives. Live with your wives, بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, in goodness. And this word, this Quranic word ma'ruf, this Arabic word ma'ruf, is so wide that when you look at the other parts of the Quran, it doesn't tell you what things should come under this wide word called ma'ruf. Ma'ruf means goodness, excellence, kindness, benevolence. And nothing in the Quran specifies what type of benevolence, what type of goodness. Nothing in the Sunnah specifies, nothing in the Sharia specifies. So what it's left up to is not only what the Quran and Sunnah generally tell us is good behavior, but also custom and convention. So, for example, if I was growing up in my parents' time, in my parents' culture or my parents' country, as a husband, I might give to my wife, as part of ma'ruf goodness, might give her some laddu, some jalebi, some Indian sweets. Because Indian sweets, especially if they're not so accessible, it's a good thing to do. Okay? And if I was living at that time and I gave my wife roses or just a bunch of flowers, it might not mean much. I mean, I don't know if it would, but let's just say it didn't. Because, well, flowers, well, we've got a lot of flowers in our farm. What are you doing? But here, flowers, it's nothing to do with religion, it's just to do with ada, habit. Flowers mean something. Giving flowers means something. Because the etiquette, because the adab, the ada, the urf, the culture and the customs has changed. And Islam adapts to it, not entirely, but there is a portion. And I say that because I find a contradiction. And until we resolve these contradictions, it looks like we have two standards, double standard. See, I'm going to tell someone you need to wear a shalwar khamis and this, otherwise you're not dressing as a proper Muslim. And yet, that same person is going to eat spicy food. And the Prophet never ate spicy food. Or I'm going to tell him to wear a thobe, but he's going to eat spicy food. The Prophet never had spicy food, which is generally not good for you if you have it too much. Well, why don't we follow the so-called sunnah of what the Prophet ate? He never ate really spicy food, bland food. Most Indian, Pakistani, Bengali, they'll die in 2 days. Well, hold on a minute. Why are you picking and choosing? He didn't eat that, But you're telling, look, he's got some dress, according to, let's just argument's sake, he wore a thobe as we think he wore a thobe. And we're doing that, so why aren't we doing that? Especially when that is better for us on the long run, the food bit is better than the thobe bit. Why are we doing it? It's because